Mystic Hollow. Just the name sent shivers down your spine. It was a place forgotten by time. Trees grew tall and thick, their branches blocking out the sun. The air was always still, like the woods were holding their breath. No birds sang here, only silence. People whispered stories about Mystic Hollow, stories of things that went bump in the night, of strange lights and eerie sounds. Some said the woods were haunted. Haunted by what? Nobody dared to find out. One day, a lone traveller dared to enter Mystic Hollow. This place was known far and wide for its haunting beauty and perilous paths. The trees seemed to whisper secrets, and the fog that blanketed the ground was thick and impenetrable. They called him the Wanderer. He was a figure of legend, a man whose name was spoken in hushed tones around campfires. His journeys were the stuff of myths, filled with danger and discovery. He was searching for an ancient artifact, a talisman said to hold great power. This artifact was rumoured to grant its possessor unimaginable abilities, and many had perished in its pursuit. The map he carried was old and tattered, its ink faded with time, but it was his only guide. He had heard the whispers, the warnings to stay away. The villagers spoke of spirits that guarded the forest, of curses that befell those who dared to enter. Yet the Wanderer was driven by a purpose that outweighed his fear. But the Wanderer was not easily scared. His heart was steeled by countless adventures, and his resolve was unbreakable. He had faced monsters and men alike, and he was determined to see this quest through. As he stepped into the woods, the air grew cold. The temperature seemed to drop with each step he took, and the mist swirled around him like ghostly tendrils. The forest was alive, and it seemed to be watching his every move. A shiver ran down his spine. It was not just the cold that caused it, but a sense of foreboding that settled deep in his bones. He knew he was not alone in these woods. The Wanderer felt a presence, something watching him from the shadows. He could almost hear the breath of the forest, feel the eyes that tracked his every step. It was as if the very trees were alive, whispering secrets to one another. He pressed on, his hand gripping the hilt of his sword. The weight of the blade was a comforting reminder of his strength and skill. He was ready for whatever lay ahead, be it beast or spirit. The Wanderer knew that his journey was just beginning, and he was prepared to face the unknown. Deeper and deeper, the Wanderer ventured. Each step he took seemed to echo in the silence, a silence so profound it felt almost tangible. The forest was a labyrinth of shadows and secrets, and he was determined to uncover them all. The trees grew closer, their branches reaching out like grasping claws. They seemed to whisper among themselves, sharing secrets of the forest that he could not understand. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, adding to the eerie atmosphere. The silence was broken only by the sound of his own footsteps. Each crunch of leaves underfoot was a reminder of his solitude. Yet there was something else, a faint rustling that seemed to follow him, just out of sight. Or were they? Sometimes he could have sworn he heard whispers. They were faint, almost imperceptible, but they were there. The whispers seemed to come from the very heart of the forest, beckoning him deeper into its embrace. Whispers just out of reach, calling his name. They were like ghostly fingers brushing against his mind, leaving him with a sense of unease. He tried to shake off the feeling, but it clung to him like a second skin. The Wanderer felt a cold sweat on his skin. The temperature seemed to drop the further he went, and the chill seeped into his bones. He could feel the weight of the forest pressing down on him, as if it were alive and aware of his presence. Fear gnawed at his courage. Every shadow seemed to hide a threat, every rustle a potential danger. But he couldn't turn back now. He had come too far, and the answers he sought were within his grasp. But he had come too far to turn back. His determination was a beacon in the darkness, guiding him forward. He had to push through the fear, through the whispers and the shadows, to find what he was looking for. He had to find the talisman. It was said to hold the key to the mysteries of Mystic Hollow, a place shrouded in legend and fear. The talisman was his only hope of uncovering the truth and putting the restless spirits to peace. He had to know the truth about Mystic Hollow. The stories he had heard as a child, the warnings and the tales of those who had ventured into the forest and never returned, all led him to this moment. He was on the brink of discovery, and nothing would stop him now. Ahead, through the trees, a faint light flickered. It was almost as if the forest itself was alive, breathing with an ethereal glow that beckoned him forward. The trees seemed to whisper secrets, their leaves rustling in a language only the forest understood. The wanderer's heart pounded in his chest. Each beat echoed in his ears, a rhythmic reminder of his own mortality. He could feel the adrenaline coursing through his veins, heightening his senses and sharpening his focus. The forest was both a place of wonder and danger, and he was acutely aware of every shadow that danced around him. Could this be it? The source of the stories? The tales of a shrine that glowed with an otherworldly light had been passed down through generations. Many had sought it, but few had returned. Those who did spoke of its power, its mystery, and the sense of awe it inspired. The wanderer had always been drawn to such legends, and now, standing on the brink of discovery, he felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. He pushed forward, his hand never leaving his sword. The weight of the blade was a comforting presence, a reminder that he was not entirely defenseless. Every step he took was measured, deliberate. The forest seemed to close in around him, the trees forming a natural barrier that both protected and threatened. He could feel the eyes of unseen creatures watching him, waiting to see what he would do next. There, in a small clearing, stood an ancient shrine. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, a relic from a time long forgotten. The air around it seemed to shimmer, as if the very fabric of reality was thinner here. The wanderer felt a sense of reverence, a deep respect for the history and power that the shrine represented. It was made of grey stone, covered in strange symbols. These symbols were unlike any he had encountered before, their meaning lost to time. They seemed to pulse with a life of their own, drawing him closer. The wanderer couldn't help but wonder who had built this shrine and what purpose it served. Was it a place of worship? A portal to another world, or something else entirely? As the wanderer approached, the symbols began to glow. The light was soft at first, a gentle luminescence that gradually grew brighter. It was as if the shrine was awakening, responding to his presence. The glow illuminated the clearing, casting eerie shadows that danced around him. The wanderer felt a connection to the shrine, a sense that he was meant to be here, at this moment. A soft humming filled the air. It was a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, a melodic vibration that resonated deep within him. The humming grew louder, more insistent, as if urging him to take the final step. The wanderer felt a sense of anticipation, a feeling that something extraordinary was about to happen. He reached out, his fingers trembling, and touched the cold stone. The surface was smooth, almost polished, and it felt strangely warm to the touch. The wanderer could feel the energy coursing through the stone, a powerful force that seemed to pulse in time with his own heartbeat. He closed his eyes, letting the sensation wash over him. A jolt of energy surged through him. It was like nothing he had ever experienced, a powerful current that seemed to electrify every cell in his body. The wanderer felt a rush of emotions, a flood of memories that were not his own. He saw visions of ancient rituals, of people long gone who had once stood where he now stood. The energy was overwhelming, but it was also exhilarating. The whispers grew louder, swirling around him like a vortex. They were voices from the past, fragments of conversations that had taken place centuries ago. The wanderer could hear them clearly, each word a piece of a larger puzzle. He felt a sense of connection to these voices, a realization that he was part of a continuum that stretched back through the ages. The forest, the shrine, the symbols, they were all part of a greater mystery, one that he was only beginning to understand. And then he saw it. A figure made of shadows rising from the ground before him. Its eyes glowed with an eerie light. The wanderer stumbled back, his heart pounding in his chest. The whispers were deafening now, filled with anger and rage. The shadow creature lunged. The wanderer barely had time to react, raising his sword to defend himself. The blade met the creature's claws, sending sparks flying through the air. The wanderer felt a surge of dread. This was no ordinary enemy. He remembered the talisman. Quickly he reached into his pack and pulled out the ancient artifact. It was a small silver pendant shaped like a wolf's head. Holding it tight, the wanderer felt a surge of warmth. He raised the talisman high. The shadowy figure shrieked, recoiling from the light of the talisman. The whispers turned into screams of agony. The wanderer pressed his advantage, chanting the words of power he had learned from ancient texts. The battle raged. The wanderer fought with every ounce of strength he possessed. The talisman's light weakened the shadow creature, but it was not enough. The wanderer felt his strength fading. He knew he couldn't hold on much longer. With one final, desperate cry, the wanderer channeled all his energy into the talisman. A blinding flash of light erupted, throwing the shadow creature back into the darkness. The whispers ceased. Silence returned to Mystic Hollow. The wanderer stumbled back, exhausted but alive. He had faced the shadows of Mystic Hollow and emerged victorious. He collected the talisman and fled, not daring to look back. He left the woods a changed man. The scars of Mystic Hollow ran deep, a constant reminder of the horrors he had faced. He never spoke of his experience, but sometimes, when the wind was right, he could still hear the whispers from Mystic Hollow, forever haunting his dreams.